Imagine uncovering the shadowy underbelly of global finance, where unelected elites pull strings that could bankrupt nations overnight or turn paupers into tycoons in a flash. Picture scandals involving trillions vanishing into thin air, whispers of insider deals that rigged the game for the ultra-rich, and chilling tales of economic collapses engineered in secret boardrooms. Events so twisted they make your skin crawl. What if I told you that behind every market crash and boom lies a web of intrigue that could shatter your financial future? Stick around because by the end, I'll reveal jaw-dropping revelations that expose how these hidden forces have manipulated history, and why the next big twist might be lurking just around the corner. You won't want to miss the explosive truths waiting at the finish line. They'll change how you see your wallet forever. In our interconnected world, few entities hold as much sway as central banks, those quiet giants shaping the ebb and flow of economies without fanfare or ballots. They dictate the worth of currencies, steer vast financial tides, and touch every aspect of personal wealth accumulation. Capable of conjuring prosperity from nothing or erasing it in moments, these institutions operate with minimal oversight from the public they impact. This narrative explores their ascent to dominance in contemporary finance, not as neutral overseers but as key participants crafting the rules to suit their evolving roles. Grasping their origins transforms perceptions of earnings, obligations, and reserves forever. Journey back to the late 17th century, specifically 1694, when England grappled with fiscal desperation following an exhausting conflict against France that drained royal coffers dry. Enter the Bank of England, pioneering what we recognize today as a central banking model. Far from catering to everyday folk, its core mission centered on funding governmental needs while reaping gains from such arrangements. This blueprint birthed the archetype of central banks as state financiers rather than mere stabilizers of economic fluctuations. As decades unfolded, this authority only amplified, embedding itself deeper into national frameworks. Fast forward to the 1800s, where European counterparts mirrored this approach, emerging as privileged private entities. They minted official tender, oversaw stockpiles, and extended aid during turmoil, all while amassing unchecked clout absent from electoral processes. Across the Atlantic, America's trajectory proved turbulent and laced with skepticism towards centralized monetary might. Citizens harbored wariness toward such concentrations, leading to the dissolution of early attempts like the initial two national banks amid charges of graft and favoritism toward the affluent. Throughout much of that era, the nation navigated without a unified central authority, resulting in a patchwork of localized monies, wild speculative surges, and crippling downturns that exposed vulnerabilities. The turning point arrived with the 1907 financial scare, a debacle so acute that a single magnate, J.P. Morgan, improvised a bailout using personal resources and networks. This episode amplified calls for reform, culminating in 1913's legislation establishing the Federal Reserve System. Marketed as a dispersed array of district institutions promoting steadiness, it gradually consolidated into a formidable hub dictating borrowing costs, credit flows, and currency volumes. Delving deeper reveals the opacity. Unlike typical federal bodies, the Fed blends governmental and commercial traits. Its oversight panel receives presidential nods, yet participating lenders retain private status. Funding stems from yields on public borrowings and levies on affiliated entities, not taxpayer contributions. It maneuvers within market undercurrents, issuing edicts influencing billions sans voter consultation. This raises profound queries about allegiance. Formally, it pursues twin goals of full job markets and steady pricing. Yet, executions frequently favor the regulated over the populace. Consider the 2008 meltdown. Beyond rate slashes, it generated vast sums, rescued speculative firms, bolstered valuations, and underwrote dubious liabilities. A decade later, amid global health disruptions, the scale escalated, acquiring company obligations, flooding systems with funds, and amplifying disparities that enriched the prosperous while dangling indirect perks for others. At its essence, these bodies don't merely guide economies. They mold them, allocating victories and setbacks. Easing policies propel equities upward, while restrictions precipitate slumps. Expanding supplies advantages holders of valuables, whereas hikes burden households with elevated payments on homes, cards, and vehicles. Despite professed autonomy, ties to overseen sectors run deep, with executives shuttling between corporate suites and policy halls. Initiatives often echo investor priorities, cloaked in arcane jargon that obscures transparency for laypersons. Presently, we inhabit an era of unparalleled central bank potency coupled with scant responsibility. Entities like the Fed, ECB, BOJ, and BOE aren't impartial, they construct our fiscal landscape. Post-2008 shifts have remade terrains unrecognizably. Subdued borrowing norms prevailed. Unconventional expansions, once radical, normalized. They channeled billions into sovereign notes, business IOUs, and property-linked instruments. Consequences included soaring valuations in shares, properties, and goods. For existing owners, fortunes multiplied. To the rest, it masqueraded as advancement veiling cost escalations. Residences grew unattainable. Markets diverged from earnings growth. Living expenses climbed as nest eggs stagnated, with culprits eluding blame amid finger-pointing at leaders, outsiders, or fate, overlooking the puppeteers of monetary levers. The stark reality unfolds. Contemporary finance engineers perpetual activity over genuine autonomy. These guardians oil gears of spending, fostering borrowings while discouraging hoarding. They tweak charges, craft stories, and shift fortunes digitally. Each gathering, announcement, and urgent measure dons the guise of equilibrium. But it's institutional endurance they safeguard, not individual security. Reflect on the 2020 turmoil. A swift equity plunge marked historic velocity. Promptly, the Fed unleashed enormous infusions. Markets revived briskly. Magnates amassed further riches. Conversely, laborers endured layoffs, enterprises shuttered, and tenants braced for displacements. Salvaged was the facade of robustness. The ledger swelled, obligations mounted, and reliance intensified. Such interventions warp capital pricing, muddling evaluations, hindering foresight, and complicating later life provisions. They cultivate expansions, ignite contractions, fostering volatile swings where tangible value erodes and nominal gains evaporate. Most alarmingly, they erode personal control. Countless remain oblivious to influences on loan yields, deposit returns, or dwelling costs, all cascading from secluded deliberations by unelectable figures. True mastery resides not in formal independence but in servicing origins, lenders, exchanges, and privileged circles. Transitions between finance hubs and regulatory posts aren't folklore, they're routine progressions. The vernacular of this realm, intricate, scholarly, laden with analyses, excludes novices deliberately. Yet, armed with insight into systemic designs and these entities' enforcements, liberation beckons. Monetary acumen transcends ledgers or placements, it embodies empowerment. Recognizing currency's bias, price rises orchestration, charges agendas, and independences demands comprehension plus evasion of snares. This could involve securing unproducible holdings, forging revenues detached from cycles, or dismissing perpetual expansion myths. For escalation driven by boundless obligations and relentless intake resembles an endless loop. Acceleration merely heightens escape challenges. Practical steps commence with clarity. These aren't omnipotents but participants. Instruments like charge adjustments, fund surges, and acquisitions prioritize market calm, entity shields, and debt-sustained frameworks over personal liberty. Direct confrontations prove futile, yet strategic positioning offers refuge. Spread risks, streamline, curtail borrowings, possess essentials, master mechanics, disseminate wisdom, challenge tales. Inevitability looms for future upheavals, they arrive cyclically. Responses will prioritize preservation. Self-guardianship falls to individuals. Patterns echo without replication, but ignorance invites peril. If this reshapes views, join for more. Past lessons illuminate paths ahead.